Welcome to another episode of Southern Arizona's Nonprofits, the superheroes impacting our community. We're broadcasting live today on the Tucson Business Channel, a division of Mark Bishop Media, from the Stewart Title Corporate Offices on Broadway in Tucson, Arizona. It's brought to you today by SCIP, SSCIP, the Social Service Contractor Indemnity Pool, ensuring nonprofits like ours for more than 3 decades. This is Barbara McClure, Executive Director of Impact to Southern Arizona, and host of this show. And with me today, I have 2 local leaders making a difference in the lives of our homeless teens and making art accessible for everyone. So please join me in welcoming Mrs. Bethany Neumann, Director of Development and Communications of Youth on Their Own, or as many of us know it, YOTO. Welcome. Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
We appreciate you joining us. And then Mr. Frank Hernandez is also with us. He's the Assistant Director of an organization here called Arts for All. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining us today. And we're going to talk about homeless youth in our community and what their lives are like and what YOTO is doing to help them, and then also all kinds of things that Art for All does to help many different people. So I think we have so many organizations in Tucson, and really the point of this whole program is for people to learn more about what's going on in the community. And sometimes our homeless students are not seen, and I think many people don't realize we even have homeless students. So I thought I'd start with a question for you, Bethany, about what Youth on Their Own does and a little bit of the history on how it was founded.
Sure. You're right, Barbara. A lot of folks don't realize how many youth are experiencing homelessness here in Pima County or in Arizona or in the country. There are actually quite a few students who are on their own. Maybe their parents have been incarcerated, deported, have passed away, or are simply unable to parent because of issues of addiction or other problems. But thousands of students in Pima County experience that on a daily basis. And the mission of Youth on Their Own is to help those students do what they can to graduate from high school. So we have 3 basic sections, I would say, of the program. The first is financial support, and that's the biggest part of our budget. It's the biggest thing, the thing the students always remember. So students are eligible for a $160 stipend just for attending school. So we're trying to encourage them to be there to do their best. A lot of them are facing competing sort of challenges or competing problems, like they need to work. So we're trying to help mitigate that need to work or need to be somewhere else by providing financial support. We also provide for their basic needs. So basically anything their parents would have been supplying them if they had been around. Free food, free hygiene products, free access to clothing, transportation. If, for example, they need to go to a doctor's appointment, they can let us know and we'll get a taxi for them. For a lot of them, transport is a huge issue. And then finally, and kind of encompassing everything, we offer them guidance and support. So we have folks on staff who help them through these issues they have. We also have amazing folks in each school called liaisons. They're volunteers for our program, but they're usually employees of the school, like a social worker, a counselor. They're the ones who help us enroll students. They help us get things to students. And they're usually the ones that know what's kind of going on with students. And actually, the first person who founded YOTO kind of had this role. Her name was Ann Young, or is Ann Young. She's still around, still involved in the program. And in 1986, she was a counselor at Amphi, and she noticed that some of her students were not succeeding, weren't attending school, weren't graduating because of these sort of family problems and homelessness that they were experiencing. So way back when she started YOTO, and then, so many years later, here we are.
It is amazing. I think at Impact to Southern Arizona, we had a moment where we decided to partner with Amphi. Mm-hmm. And the issue came up that there must be students at CDO and Ironwood High School who are homeless. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, that's not possible because they're in an affluent area. And,
everywhere.
How could that be? And they don't have that there. But when we looked into it, we were surprised because between the 2 schools, there were 42 homeless high school students.
Yep.
Some living in their cars. It was really kind of an eye-opener. And just for fun, it happened to be late spring when we were having this conversation. And so we partnered with the Oro Valley Rotary. And we also have a clothing bank and provide a lot of those same services up in the far northwest. So the Rotary partnered with us, and we got all of the kids passes to the aquatic center in Oro Valley.
Wonderful.
New beach towels, bathing suits, sunscreen, everything you'd need to be a teenager who's dying in the hot Tucson sun,
Yeah.
So that was a really fun moment and a fun project. And we worked very closely with AMFI, with Mary Beth, who I know is still doing that, still kind of interfacing with all the homeless kids on the school district level.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have great partnerships with the schools in town and be able to work through them to deliver services for youth. A lot of the kids, for example, don't have access to the fees to pay for art supplies or art stuff or music. And so one of the things Yoda will do is pay for that for them if they'd like to join, the marching band or the football team or, be part of an arts club or something like that.
Sure. And it must be hard. When you think about children, students, and transportation, I thought you're so right. Some of those kids who are sleeping in their cars are doing that. But then if you don't have an income, how do you maintain that? And how do you pay for the gas? And so there are so many people in the community helping to support that. But I hadn't really thought about somebody who's alone who just needs transportation. We see it all the time in Catalina because we don't have bus service there. But to think of students all throughout Tucson with no transportation is really kind of an interesting.
Car's a big investment.
It is. And then it's a huge maintenance piece too. So, and I like that you brought up the arts because arts is so important, and we at Impact talk a lot about art therapy. And so, Frank, here's a good question for you and an opportunity to tell us about Arts for All, because I wasn't exactly sure when I first found out about you what kind of care services you were doing, or just the title in the beginning, just Arts for All, was really appealing to me.
I'm glad it's appealing. I often say we're one of Tucson's best kept secrets. We are an art center. We have been open as a nonprofit for 35 years. And when you think of the landscape in Tucson of nonprofits that have come and gone for the last 35 years, you and I could probably have a whole show on, do you remember this nonprofit or that nonprofit, right?
Sure, I think that's true.
But we have stayed afloat. The community has definitely blessed us. We have some great board members. Our executive director is still the founding executive director. And Arts for All began because this was before the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law. Kids didn't have access to after-school activities. So kids with special needs would just go home. And so their friends would be, as you said earlier, joining the football team, joining an art club, joining a marching band. But a lot of these kids with disabilities, the schools didn't have to provide access. So you have children who just go home. And after-school activities are so important. You learn, you grow, you explore something new. A lot of these after-school activities become your passions later on in life. They become your hobbies, and in some cases, they even become your vocation. So Arts for All was founded in the living room of our executive director's home. And 35 years, we've served a lot of children with special needs. Now, when 35 years, they didn't stay children, right? So
right.
They grew up. So when they grew up, they said, well, what can you do for us now? And we said, nothing. We're a children's organization. You turn 18, you turn 21, whatever it is, and you go do an adult life. And we were highly encouraged by the Division of Developmental Disabilities and by some parents to start a day program for adults. So now we pretty much have K through whenever you want programming. So we have adults with developmental disabilities who participate in our daily classes of music, dance, drama, art, ceramics. And then we have an after-school program for children, a lot of AMFI children. And then we also have a summer arts camp where kids come for 10 or so weeks to enjoy summer camp activities in an art setting.
Boy, that sounds like fun. I bet the kids love that.
It's exhausting, but they do have fun.
Exhausting for you, but
For
maybe
us,
not so much for the kids.
definitely.
I think they all need something to do in the summer, and it's hard to be away from friends. I think that was something we saw in COVID. Kids who were used to being so social and suddenly had to go home, and mom and dad and siblings aren't necessarily the same kind of, entertainment maybe, or the same kind of confidants. What did you find happened during COVID for you then, Frank?
For us, it was very interesting because we're already serving a segment of the population that needs extra supports. So when schools went to Zoom, we had about 24 kids who just were not going to be successful doing Zoom at home, whether they need direct care, they need a little extra supervision, and some of the children, Zoom wasn't capturing their attention. So we had to open a couple of classrooms, and so we, instead of being an after-school program during the COVID, we became a center where kids could come and do their Zoom lessons. So, that was like almost overnight. We had parents just literally crying, saying, that Joey can't stay home alone. We have to work. How is he going to do his Zoom? So we said, well, let's try it. And just meeting the community's need was so rewarding for our staff. You have these young staff who are after school, staff who are really good at having fun and encouraging the kids, and then on a dime, okay, now you're going to be like teacher's assistants, and now you're going to help. So it was quite the experience from us going into the fun arts for all, music, dance, drama, art, ceramics, and now, hey guys, the first 7 hours of your day, you have to do Zoom. So
math,
it took
science.
us a while to get it, to go into science and math and helping these kids. All of the children had individualized education plans. So our staff just really made it happen and helped these kids do Zoom at Arts for All.
That's very exciting. What a great way to kind of broaden and meet the need. Like you say, everybody pivoted for sure all through 2020. How about you, Bethany? How did you guys have to pivot during COVID?
I think for everybody, it did feel, as Frank said, like it was one moment to the next. Suddenly everyone's picking all the plants out of the office and going home, and you don't know when you're coming back. So our offices were actually closed, including the mini mall where students come to get basic needs stuff, from March of 2020 until July of this year.
Wow, that must have been hard.
We were all at home, and it was really hard for the students, I think, because schools were closed. So schools do a lot more than I think folks realize. It's a place where kids are coming to get, social services, to get food, to get their educations. And so with the schools closed, we really lost a nexus, like a point of contact with students. Yoto's program is run through the schools. So each of those liaisons that I spoke about earlier, they are there to help us not just find students, but, find out what's going on. They're the ones that see the kids every day. They work in the schools. So without those folks, without the students being able to engage with them, it became really hard to connect with the students. And I remember at the end of last year, we went through this whole thing where we were trying to call all the kids and email, try to find direct contact with all of them. But that became really difficult because they're experiencing homelessness. A lot of them don't have consistent contact like that with their outside world, shall we say. And so part of our problem sort of organizationally was maintaining that contact and being able to do that throughout the next school year that was completely, virtual. Sure. And as, Frank said, a lot of them don't have a really great time with these virtual classes. It's really hard. I know that I've spoken to many folks who are parents and have kids, and how hard it is to get your own kids to pay attention, to do the lessons, to follow through. And you can imagine if you don't have anybody in your life that's really pushing you. And during this time, there's an incentive to go, work at Safeway, work at Target, because those kind of places were hiring, how difficult it would be to really stick with your education. So that was pretty hard for us to sort of pivot towards. we went really strong towards online options. So we have what's kind of like a Yodo Amazon. The students can go and select the items they need. That's how they enroll. That's how they fill out their application. So we really invested in that to help the students be able to do what they needed to do without being physically in person. And that was really in the nick of time, because before we knew it, there was no school. The schools weren't going to be there to help us connect with kids. So it was difficult for us as an organization, but it was more difficult for the students who are having to get through their lives, all these different expenses. Everyone's heard about the eviction moratorium and just housing in general, how that's become very difficult in Tucson. Our students definitely see that. And again, as Frank mentioned, childcare. A lot of Yodo youth have children, or they're taking care of siblings, and suddenly they have to go to school and they have to do their job, and all their siblings or children are now at home when they might have been at daycare before. So it's the same kind of feelings and challenges we all face, but they do it on their own.
Sure.
Well, not on their own quite, because you're there to help them.
That's true.
What a great stopgap. When I heard you talk about the boots on the ground, the people that you have at the school, I mean, that's brilliant. Because, we don't always find the people at the right time, but it sounds like with your model, you have someone at the school looking out for those kids that may need a little extra, whether it's, like you said, finances, or whether it's, some hygiene supplies. That captivated me when you were doing your opening remarks, and how special those volunteers have to be to not only do their day job, but also be deputized from youth on their own to look out and say, yeah, there's 3,000, I don't know how many thousands of kids in this school, but I noticed this person might fall through the cracks. That's a great resource that you have, that I'm going to think about. Is there a way that Arts for All could, we have a lot of special ed teachers who
Sure.
for the last 35 years know Arts for All, and part of our misinformation out there is people think that Arts for All is just for kids with disabilities, but it's not. It's for all kids, Arts for all children who love art. But because of our specialized training, kids with special needs, kids with autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, behavioral issues, they can come to our art center, participate in the classes, and if they need a little extra help, we'll help them. But that kind of made me think about, how we could maybe talk to special ed instructors or counselors who might help us find the kids, because we know they're out there, right?
Oh, definitely. Sure. But I agree with you. It's hard sometimes to find the participants. And I like your idea. That's great. There are so many special ed teachers, and every school has them these days, a whole staff of them, really. So there you go. You're going home with a great idea.
Yeah. Thanks. This is a great chat.
That's it. Well, and that's the whole point. There's over 3,000 nonprofits in Tucson. And so we're all off doing our own thing. And as you were saying earlier, Frank, before we started the show, we all feel like we're the best kept secret in town, because even though some names are so big, there are people doing all kinds of work that very few people seem to know about. And I know as the development director, you can appreciate this, Bethany. You can send out as much marketing material and tell stories, and then it's always heartening or disheartening when somebody comes by in your neighborhood and says, well, I didn't even know you guys were there, and what is it you do exactly? Or for Impact, we operate a food bank, and that's what we're known for, but that's not all we do. So it's always a challenge to kind of get out there and make sure all the people are involved. So I think you've got a good idea, Frank. I bet those special ed teachers would love to help.
Yeah. I think that's something that, we need to look at and find allies that are not necessarily on our payroll or on our existing volunteering. So maybe we'll talk later.
We'd love to.
About how you go about recruiting these really special people, it sounds like, who, really go out of their way to, look. And I'm sure sometimes it's not easy because youth don't want you to know they're homeless, right?
Right.
They want to be quote unquote normal or typical, and so they're not going to march around in the school setting saying, "Hey, I need help. I'm homeless." I'm sure that for the most part, they try to keep that a secret.
A lot of them do. I think a lot of them, they tell their friends, which is another way that we get a lot of recommendations for enrollment.
Sure.
The students are experiencing similar things. And they say, hey, all I had to do was enroll at Yoto, and they gave me $160 to go to school. You should do that too. Or Yoto helped me with my rent check, or Yoto helped me, find food. So that kind of, the fact that the program works, I think, is what makes it widely known, is that the kids know that it works, the liaisons know that it works, and they really want things for the kids. They really want to see these young people succeed. And so they try to look for all the resources that they can. And Yoto, for a long time now, since 1986, has been a resource for those students.
That's terrific. And I think it's interesting because I was thinking about what the myth of homelessness and what we think of as a community, what the people that we see as homeless, we think just don't want to work hard or just don't want to, step up and take responsibility. And it's so not a fair judgment of what the homeless population is like, and especially these kids. I can't even imagine a student who is in high school even managing a rent, trying to do all of that. So it's a challenge, and it impact. We often have the same kind of an issue with people who assume people who are utilizing a food bank must have this certain, descriptor, and we always say that at Impact, our clients are hardworking families struggling to make ends meet. They're low-income and homebound seniors, homeless individuals living in the desert and couch hopping. We have a lot who live out on the Rail X outside between the Tortolitas and the Catalinas.
Wow.
And they come in regularly for food. So they're also couch hopping, as you say, or we haven't said that, but where they're staying with friends and staying with family. Then we have single parents and grandparents raising children, disabled and unemployable people, and temporarily unemployed. And we say to people, you know what, our clients are your neighbors. And it always surprises them to hear it that way because they're everywhere in the community. And I think that's a really good point. I liked your comment, Frank, that those kids don't run around waving the flag of homelessness. And the idea of how they eat. I was thinking when COVID closed schools, kids were getting breakfast and lunch. That was a wonderful thing. And of course, it's still going on. But even for us, we were delivering breakfast and lunch for the schools to families that weren't coming in. And I can't imagine being a student or being a youth and just suddenly no food, no anything. Now, where is Yoto's office, though? I mean, when you're talking about transportation, I'm thinking, so how do the kids actually get down there?
So our office is right up the street on Alvernon, 1660 North Alvernon. So it's Alvernon and Pima. And you're right, it is a huge challenge for a lot of our students. Traditionally, the best or the biggest high school for Yoto has been Catalina, and no coincidence because it's just down the street.
Sure.
That's why we focus so hard on making sure they can get the services they need in multiple ways. We do have taxis, so we will, if they need to come to the office, we'll get them a taxi. They get free Suntran bus passes, but right now I think they're still free just for everybody. But we also, through this sort of Yoto Amazon thing that I mentioned, we deliver supplies to them. So normally, in normal human times, we deliver to the schools. It's another way that the liaisons help us out so much. They receive all of the requests the students have made, their checks that we have for them, any supplies, anything like that. It goes from our office to the schools, and the students pick it up because presumably they are at school. And one of the challenges of COVID was we had to deliver directly to the students, which is a lot more different places
Sure.
than just the schools.
And it might be different next month than it was this month.
Exactly.
Or 2 months from now.
It's a very transient population. They are usually couch surfing, staying with a relative, but it's very unstable, the situation that most of the youth are in. So you're right. Like sometimes it might be at this address and then something happens in the month and it turns out they're in a different address altogether. So it was a lot of keeping up with students to make sure that we knew what was going on. Whereas in normal times, the schools really are that nexus. Yeah.
And so can someone refer, or do you need a school liaison to refer you?
No, you can call up and you can say, hey, I'd like to apply. And we have an online application, actually. You can just go online and apply. And someone on our staff will look through the application and figure out if the student is eligible or not for the program. You do have to be enrolled in school. That's the one thing. Since our mission is to help homeless youth graduate from high school, they have to be enrolled in middle school or in high school. The vast majority of our students are in high school. About a quarter are actually over 18. So some of them obviously are taking a little bit longer to graduate, which is completely understandable, all things considered. But yeah, they can totally just go online and enroll themselves. A lot of them find the liaison is a helpful tool because they can sort of describe the program, and they'll have other students at the school almost always who've gone through it as well. So it's a nice thing to know that you're not alone. There are plenty of other, young people in your position, and there are resources out there for you.
That's a great thing. I think also, too, I want to let the listeners know, as well as you, too, that all the information about your organizations is on the show's webpage. So people will have all these links and contact information so they can reach out and contact you or find out how to get that. And we're going to take a brief moment to hear a message from our sponsor.
Today's program is brought to you by SKIP, the Social Service Contractors Indemnity Pool. SKIP is a member-owned, member-directed insurance provider with more than 3 decades of insuring Arizona social service organizations for their property, general and professional liability, and auto claim exposures. With an Arizona-based staff of claim underwriting and risk management professionals, SKIP specializes in providing personalized service, affordable premiums, and coverage which meets and often exceeds the state of Arizona's contract requirements for social service providers. For more information, visit our website at www.sscip.org or ask your insurance agent about protecting your organization with insurance coverage through SKIP.
And we're back. Thank you for joining us again. This is Barbara McClure, and I'm here with Bethany Neumann of Youth on Their Own and Frank Hernandez with Arts for All. So we've been talking about homelessness in our community and how we support that, and also art being open for everyone. And I know, Frank, that you've had a little bit of a musical background. I remember Up With People myself and know you started there. I wasn't in it, but it used to travel through, and that was so much fun.
Tucson was the home base for Up With People for I don't know how many years. And then they got sweet-talked into going to Broomfield, Colorado. So we have a big base.
There's something about snow, when you live in Tucson.
Well,
it's so appealing.
I've heard stories that it was the Denver airport. I don't know why anyone would move because of the Denver airport. I don't know if you've flown there. It's a nightmare, Denver.
That's
but
so fun.
Many international students. So flying into Tucson is a little more expensive than other places. They also got a really nice building and some tax benefits, but still, I think Up With People would consider Tucson our home. So I was excited to travel in 95, way back in the age of 1995. And originally, I was born in Puerto Peñasco, so I went as a Tucson resident, but I represented Mexico and traveled. And then when I came back from Up With People, in 96, then I started at Arts for All. So that's kind of my 2 big passions, I guess.
What a great
Up With People and Arts for All. Yeah, and they kind of collided. I knew about Arts for All before I went to Up With People because as a high school student, I had been in a couple of the productions. So when I came back with so many skills and, that Up With People, I want to change the world, idealism. And I thought, I don't need to change the world. I need to change a kid's life, and I can do it here at home.
There you go. That's a good place to start, one at a time locally.
Yeah.
I love that. There's a lot of that opportunity. So can you explain to us then, because I'm really interested when you talk about music and dance and productions, kind of what goes on there. So you're not just doing paper, you're not just doing painting and arts on the table. It
Right.
It's much more active.
So we have visual arts and performing arts. So we do classes. We have studios that are dedicated to the visual and the performing arts. So in the visual arts, we have a art studio. We have a kiln, ceramic studio. We have our own kiln, so our artists can fire their stuff there. When we first got started, we used to fire at Tucson Museum of Art. And so that transition, transferring delicate pieces to the Museum of Art, was so stressful. It was so stressful because, inevitably something would happen. Oh, so, sure. Yeah, and then you have kids crying and staff crying. We don't want to go back to those days.
But it sounds like such a great connection, doesn't it, to kind of partner with the museum, of course?
Yeah,
sure.
We rented from the museum for in the 90s, and then we received a CDBG block grant through the city, and then with some amazing help with Angel Charities, I think about $700,000 they invested into our program. And so because of those two big boosts, we have our own art center with dedicated studios. We don't have a mortgage. It's rent. We've paid for that. So all the funding that we receive goes right back to making sure we have the materials, the supplies, and the setting to do music, dance, drama, art, ceramics. We also do a craft class, and there's other classes that we do that are, not necessarily art. They're enrichment classes. We do exercise, and we do yoga and Zumba, and just a lot of activities that may not be quote unquote art, but the big part of Arts for All, like our name is, we want anyone who would like to participate in art to have that experience. Some of our artists have sold paintings for a lot of money, more money than I have. And a lot of them just go home and they get put on their grandma's refrigerator. But the point isn't to sell art. The point is to get your hands dirty and go and do the art. It's the process. So we have some, kids that excel in ceramics, kids that excel in canvas, and then we have some kids that do some amazing dancing. So it's all the arts put together in one accessible place for our students.
I think Tucson's very lucky to have that available. That's so cool. I know art brings such a sense of creativity to people, and we talk a lot about art therapy, and I think that's so important. And really, when you're doing productions, when you're doing plays and kids are dancing, it's just a confidence builder, and it just grows them in so many different ways. So I think that's a very cool thing to have. Thank you for doing that for so long. And for coming back and for bringing all that music with you.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I was born in Puerto Peñasco, came here to attend the School for the Deaf and Blind. So when I left the school, I graduated, went to Up With People, and, I traveled the world, and my heart still wanted to come back. Of course, my family was here, and
sure,
I was going to meet my wife here. I didn't know that then, but something was pulling me back to Tucson. So, I've been doing that. Before we started the interview, Bethany said, "How long have you been there?" And I said, 25 years. And it's been really fun. It doesn't feel like a long 25 years. It really, when you're working with your passion, when you're giving to your community, like so many of the nonprofits that you probably have interviewed, we're here for the long haul because we believe in our mission. We believe in, you and I believe in the kids we serve. And that's what's going to keep us here for another 35 years or, a lot longer, I hope.
Sure. Now, you asked Bethany how students enroll into the youth on their own program, how the homeless students connect. So how would someone connect with your center? How does someone apply, or say people have gotten the word and they know people and they can refer them? What's the next
So
step?
a lot of our referrals come through the Division of Developmental Disabilities, through their case managers. We get a lot of referrals from CPS, but schools are important to us as well. Teachers who have been in the field for a long time. And also, interestingly enough, we get a lot of referrals from Tucson daycares. We were talking about daycare before and how COVID, closed some. And a lot of times there's daycares that call us and say, okay, we've kicked this kid out. We believe in them. We don't have the staffing. We don't have the how to. We don't have X, could we give them your name? So it's not an official network, but we have a lot of daycares who send us children who weren't successful in that setting. And sometimes they're very successful and sometimes not so much, but at least they have, instead of just going home or going to an institution or, we all get a second chance to say, well, what makes this kid work? What makes this kid interested? Do they have enough stimulation? Do they have too much stimulation? So those are some of the ways that kids come to us.
And is your center open for tours? It sounds like you're doing childcare there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are doing childcare as an after-school program.
Okay.
We do childcare when schools are out, so out of school time and summer. But right now, because of COVID, our favorite phrase, right? Because of COVID, we've all had to be flexible. So on our Facebook page, we have a virtual tour. So you can take a virtual tour, and it's pinned at the top of the page, and you can take a virtual tour because we're not letting the public right now into our spaces. A lot of our kids have fragile immune systems, so we just do our very best to keep the public. I think once where COVID is in the back in the rearview mirror, we might resume tours in person. But right now, please visit our Facebook page and get a chance to look around our art center.
Well, that's a great way to do it, especially for people who aren't, living really close by, and for parents who just want to check it out. So that'll be wonderful. We'll do that. Even I'm going to go do that at the end of the day here.
We need likes at our Facebook page, so
There you go.
You're welcome to visit our page.
We'll give you a like, you bet.
Thank you.
And then, Bethany, what about Yoto's impact on the Tucson community? I mean, we know art makes such a difference in so many people, but how do you measure that?
So for our impact, I really think you can see it in two different ways. One is we do measure our graduation rate. It's 82%, which is higher than the state average.
That's fantastic.
The state average being all of the students, not, students that we have are experiencing special challenges. So we're really proud to be able to have so many students graduating and benefiting from the program. The other way, and I think one of the reasons that Yoto is becoming better known in the community, is we have so many students who have gone through the program at this point. As Frank mentioned, for so many years, Yoto's been here since 1986. So thousands of students have gone through the program at this point, and we meet them all over the place. I had one supporter of ours who went to get her windshield replaced, and she has a little magnet on the back of her car for youth on their own. And the young man who was replacing her windshield said, "Oh, I'm a Yoto student," or "I was a Yoto student." We've gone out for pizza as a group, as an organization, and people behind the counter at the pizza bar say, "Oh, actually, I was a Yoto student." Or even we have a relationship with El Charo. We have an event coming up. Last year they did the food. The year before
Yes.
we were at Charo Vida when events were still a thing that we could have.
Sure.
And then this year we'll be doing another partnership with them for a virtual event. One of their head chefs, is a former Yoto student from the very beginning.
Wow.
He's, an adult now. And so it's great to hear these stories from folks about how Yoto helped them financially, but also sort of just feel like there's a sense of community. And to me, that's one of the coolest things about working there, to be able to see the little Yodo stars on the back of people's cars and to know that so many folks are supporting Yodo youth. It makes them feel like they're part of something, like part of a Yodo family.
Sure.
Even though their own families might have issues, they've always got, this Yodo family to help them out. And so I think that's partially how we've gotten where we are. And how we know that the impact is so great because we're hearing it from the students themselves.
That is nice. We have that at Impact. We've been around since 2000. So as you're saying, one of those long-standing organizations. And we have people come back to the food bank because we really focus, especially today, on stabilizing families, but moving them forward. Because as you were saying, Frank, after so many years, suddenly these children that were in the program become adults. And we had this epiphany that, well, we don't want those children who've been in our programs to be coming back to the food bank as adults with their family. How do we kind of break that cycle? And so it's just interesting and fun when somebody comes back and they say, I came and I got helped by Impact, and they now bring boxes and boxes of cereal monthly, or every time you meet somebody. We had a volunteer say the other day, I hadn't really heard of Impact prior to volunteering, but now that I'm out in the public, I've already met 3 people who said they were helped by Impact, which as a volunteer is kind of a fun thing
Yeah,
for
it feels
someone.
great.
It does. So I could say Tucson is very fortunate because we have a lot of superheroes out here doing a lot of work.
I just need a cape if you have one around.
I should bring everybody a cape. That would be fun. I think everybody deserves a cape.
When you talk about people coming back, we've had kids that aged out of the program and then come back and are employed.
That's
in the
terrific.
summer, we have a youth program where we train youth on how to work with children. So maybe we can collaborate, and if you have students that are interested in childcare, or maybe long-term range to be a occupational therapist or a physical therapist, or we could we have some ways that we train youth. We've done through Pima County, we've done through Urban League, different organizations, and some of these kids really find a sense of belonging, helping others. When you help others, your programs, when you help others, sometimes it seems like your issues go to the back and you can focus on helping someone else. Your issues don't go away. I mean, you're still gonna, go through what you're going through, but we have found that when youth help others, it's a great dynamic. It really is.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. We're actually, we've started working with students who've graduated from the program. So we know that it doesn't magically get better just because they graduate from high school. It's a very, very important milestone, but, their challenges are still there. So we've actually started extending certain services to the students who are recent alumni of the program. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to talk about, possibly looking at ways that certain students might be trained or employed in that area. We're really trying to help them be able to set themselves up for success in life, not just graduate high school and, high five and you're great, which is, again, an amazing accomplishment. But are they going to be going to college? Do they know how to fill out their applications? Have they done their FAFSA? How do they apply for a job? Do they know how to put together a resume? I think sometimes we underestimate how much our parents help us with these things and how much certain economic levels, you already know how to do this because that's kind of how you grew up. But a lot of these students don't grow up that way and they need that extra support. So that'd be really cool.
Yeah, especially if your parent is a Spanish speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they knew how to do a resume, the what you would do in Mexico is not necessarily what you'd want here. So, language sometimes gets in the way of parents being able to really, speak to the issue that child is having.
We definitely always see it's not a difficulty, but it's a challenge with language. About 65% of our students identify as Latino. And, not all of them are Spanish speaking, but a good chunk. And certainly a good chunk are English language learners who that's just another thing that's making it hard for them. One of the common scenarios that happens with students here is maybe the student was born here, their parents have been deported, they might have gone to Mexico for a few years, but they're coming back because they get free high school in the United States. You have to pay in Mexico to go to high school. And they may not have very good English skills, but imagine the difference in their life it would make if they, learn how to speak English, if they graduate from American high school, and the opportunities that open up for them. So, yeah.
Well, and after they graduate from high school, Impact does do free ESL classes. And so the registration was just last week, so we've started we follow the school system. But any of those other people, whether it's family members of the kids that are in Arts for All need ESL, or, some of the homeless folk are still trying to improve their English, that's always an opportunity. And all of our services are free. And we have had a lot of children from Youth on Their Own, as they age out, traditionally come to Impact, because we do provide so many of the same services. We do have a clothing bank and food. So a lot of them end up at our door. But I am excited to hear that there are some other steps that they can do too. So that's very nice to keep it going. So many good programs. I think, I was going to ask you a question. I have to think what it was. I know we've all kind of come through COVID, and it's been kind of challenging. And so you were mentioning about your October event. So I was going to say, what do you see coming in the future? So before we get lost on that one, can you tell us about your event at El Chorro? Because October's tomorrow.
October is tomorrow. Don't remind me.
And even the end of October. Have you seen the Halloween costumes everywhere?
Yeah.
Already?
We have an event. We usually have 2 events per year, one in the fall and one in the spring. The one in the fall has traditionally been a little bit smaller, but a little bit kind of swankier. And the one in the spring is sort of the traditional, you do at the TCC, bring, lots of people. And as you can imagine, since COVID, we haven't been able to do any of those things. So this year, again, we pulled our donors. Most folks felt that it wasn't time to come back in person yet. So we decided to work with El Chorro. They put together food boxes for us. So they're tamale boxes. I think there are 4 different options, 3 savory, 1 sweet. So if for each tickets are $150, you get a box and a swag box. So it's kind of like a Yodo party in a box. And that's enough for 2 people, both of them. And when I say 2, it's like 2 very large people. I remember getting the tamale box last year. It was a ton of food.
2 days of
food. Don't underestimate my tamale skills.
You think you could manage that, Frank?
Yeah,
but we,
delicious.
We're
That's
so
fun.
lucky that El Chorro has supported us in this way. And again, to have that connection with the former, student has been wonderful. So we're going to be doing that this year. The event, it's going to be a video, and it'll broadcast on the 24th of October.
All right.
You can pick up your food boxes on the 23rd. There will be 4 locations around town. And yeah, it's going to be really fun. The theme of the video is a day in the life of a Yodo student. So we're going to kind of go through what the enrollment process looks like, who they talk to. We'll talk to a liaison and a Yodo program coordinator and whatnot. So folks can get a little bit more idea about what it is the students do as part of Yodo. And then, of course, it's a fundraising event, so we'll be accepting donations, and donations will be matched. Right now we have up to $3,000, but I think we're going to have a little bit more available to match. We always have so much fun at this kind of stuff, and we're encouraging folks who are vaccinated or who are with their families to throw little Yodo parties themselves. We can't really all be together, but if you've got, 8, 10 people that you want to invite over and watch together, have some tamales, have a mimosa, I don't know,
Sounds like fun.
It'll be a little party for
or
you.
Or a Modelo, maybe a Modelo with my tamale.
And, hopefully next year things are different, or hopefully in the spring. I mean, do you guys do events, Frank?
We are not really doing events right now. We did an event a while ago, but with our staff resources, and we just have not been doing events. We do a couple of appeal letters that we've been doing, but we have not been doing big in-person events. That's not because of COVID. It's just we were spending a lot of time, as you know, a lot of effort, and so we are not doing events. But we look forward at some point to doing some events. We do a talent show.
Oh, how wonderful.
I was going to ask you, where do we go to see a production?
Yeah, at the end of our summer camp, we do a talent show. and a lot of kids that have never been on stage audition and actually get to do a performance. Sometimes it's a group performance, sometimes it's a duet or a solo, and kids get the opportunity to work on that and then present it. We've been historically at the Pima College at the Proscenium Theater, but last year, because of COVID, they couldn't rent out the theater, so we got a outside stage, and we did half of our talent show, and then we're rained out.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but
Tucson.
and then Tucson, yeah, and then we did it. We videotaped the talent show inside. So being so flexible is really going to help us in the long run. I know COVID's been difficult for all of us, but I think in the long run we're going to learn that we can do things a little differently, and sometimes it's liberating,
Definitely.
to do something new or different, right? We also have a YouTube channel that we have some recordings there that the public can go and look at some of the stuff that's there. We love to show off, so go to that YouTube channel.
That would be fun, because I think that's the whole point, isn't it? Of, like you say, the creativity of doing the art. But when you're doing a production, whether it's a dance show or a play or something.
And my background is performing arts, so sometimes the art teacher will kick me under the table and tell me, don't forget, we also do installations. We do galleries. We do. We just finished Tucson Police Department. We took over. We invaded their offices with artwork, and it was open for the public, and they did a beautiful reception. We always want our artwork also to go places, and Tucson Police Department hosted, I think, like 80 different art pieces, ceramics and canvas and drawings. So we're working on that, and those we normally publish on Facebook. Some people are busy; they can't always come to a performance. But if we say, okay, for the next 30 days, you can go visit wherever, the Tucson Police Department, people find it in their schedule to go and see the art. So I'm glad I remembered that piece about exhibits.
Yeah, in a sense, you're doing events all the time then.
Yeah, we have one at the state capitol right now. So anyone in that area in Phoenix, go check it out.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, that'll be coming soon, state capitol. A bunch of people will be in that building come January, so that'll be very nice. I think I was going to ask you also, Bethany, so if we want to get a box for your El Charro project, how do we find out about that? I mean,
Very
just to
important
the website?
information. Yes.
Well, I figure it's on the website.
It's on our website. It's on our social media as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of the platforms. We also have a YouTube channel, which is where the video will be streaming on the 24th.
Okay.
I think it will also be on Facebook. So you can either check out our website. You can give us a call at the office. We'll be happy to process your box. And on the 23rd, you pick it up from the location. We're going to have a spot in Green Valley, one in Oro Valley, and one on the east side. And then Barrio Charro is going to be serving as a pickup location as well. I believe they'll be giving a percentage of the sales they have that day back to Yodo.
Very nice.
So, yeah, it'll be fun. It's the second year we've kind of done it this way. So,
well, it's interesting because Impact is done traditionally. I had a women's Impact luncheon, and it's, as you were saying, Frank, with COVID, it kind of made everybody look a different way at doing things. I'm not sure how events will. It'll be interesting to see what events look like in the future.
I agree.
We're trying to do something unique and different and not just do the same old back to the hotel for a lunch. So our development gal's got some fun ideas that she's throwing around today. And I think that all those things are fun to go and do, though. And like you were saying to Frank, those are the fun events. I would love to go down to the police department and walk through. So really, I thank you both for coming today. It's so much fun to learn about all the wonderful things you're doing. And I know we're getting ready to wrap up, so I want to make sure, did you have anything else you want to add that you might have forgotten about or is burning a little hole in your back of your head saying, oh, out?
I would just say there's a lot more information on our website, on our Facebook page about Youth on Their Own, about the issues of youth homelessness. So if you want to help out, the first thing I would say is learn. There's so much to learn about the issues, and we've got a lot of great links and content on our website, so feel free. And then, of course, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us anytime. We've got a lot of opportunities available for folks to engage and would love to hear from more people in the community. And, of course, just thank you for having me here and for speaking with us today.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for coming out and sharing so much information. And, Frank, you too, with Arts for All. I'm really excited to learn more about it.
Thank you. And I would just encourage someone, that at the top of the show you said we have 3,000 nonprofits. So if you're sitting at home, COVID fatigue, saying, what can I do? How can I help? Find a nonprofit. Get involved. Might not be Arts for All or Youth on Your Own, but find something that will drive you, that will spark your interest in our community, because there's so much need in our community, and it's not going to take care of itself. It's going to be you and me stepping up to the plate and helping our community. So thank you for helping us get the word out.
You're very welcome. Very well said. Thank you. I think there are a lot of passions out there in the community, and people will be surprised to find there's a perfect connected nonprofit to fit it. Well, thank you both again. This is Barbara McClure with Southern Arizona Nonprofits, the superheroes impacting our community, and it was enjoyable spending the hour with the two of you. Thank you.